Hello you guys, as you know, Black History Month is right around the corner for United States, and while I believe you should be reading books by POC authors all year round, I wanted to make a dedicated video to Black History Month and reading books by Black authors. I will be starting the video by reading Parable of the Sower, and it's a long overdue read for me. It's dystopian, tackling environmental change, environmental issues, and it is something right up my alley. I love dystopian books and I really care about the environment and environmental issues. I think this is going to be the perfect combination of both of those topics. I did want to get this physically, but I didn't have time before this video, so I will be reading this on my Kindle. But without further ado, let's get started because I am really excited for this book. Whoa, this is a very strong start to the book. I feel like I say this every time, but this is not what I was expecting. This is much darker. The world seems to be very dangerous and just full of people that are homeless and don't have the necessary things you need in life. You can wind up dead and all of these things really easily. I'm very curious as to how this has happened, how has this evolved, because we also had a memory of how the world was and how they could see the stars all the time and it was peaceful. So in Parable of the Sower, we follow a teenage Lauren who lives inside a community that is surrounded by walls, and that wall protects them from the outside world, which is full of poor people, homeless people, and dangerous people who will basically attack you as soon as you come out of your community without a gun or without any group. There is also a drug going around that's called pyro that makes people want to set fires and basically kill people. Crimes and deaths are very high because there is practically no policing of crime. The wall kind of protects the community that she's in, but it's also very easy to overcome it. It's only 3 meters high and the crime is getting dangerously high and the crimes are beginning to infiltrate this community. Lauren is also the daughter of a pastor, and even though she still follows her father, she is developing her own religion where God is change, and she calls it Earthseed. She believes that people have to change and evolve to overcome what is happening in the world right now. Honestly, I don't think I was prepared for this book. I knew that it was going to be dystopian science fiction, but this is scarier than any horror book I've ever read before. I think it's because it's so realistic. It's a look into our world and what is happening and what we're not really seeing, what we're not seeing on the news, or what we're seeing, but we're seeing it in such small bits that we want to look away. And this book really shows that if you look away, it doesn't go away. I understand now why people have been recommending it, especially nowadays. I feel like the boom has started in 2024 with this book. It's pretty hard to read at times, and I had to take some breaks today because it is really hard to digest and absorb. The deeper you go into the book, the less scary it is, even though it still has some terrible, terrible topics and issues like cannibalism and sexual abuse and assault. I think either because our characters are going through this journey of their life and are coping with it and learning to cope with it, or because we're seeing the world in a different way, it's presented to us in a different way, and there is that inkling of hope with Earthseed and community and how people can rally together and be each other's companies and safe havens. So I think if you want to read this book, don't get discouraged by the first 30%. Probably the first half, I would have to say it's pretty scary. I think it's very good to stay with it. For such a forward-thinking and greatly admired book, it's honestly astounding that it's not even more popular, because I would say this is on par, if not better, than 1984 and The Handmaid's Tale, and I think it really pairs very well with both of those books. This only has 260,000 ratings on Goodreads, while the other books have a couple of million ratings on there. Happening from 2024 to 2027, it is very current to our times and not very far from what's happening in the world right now. It's very reflective of our times. It's dark, unsettling, very horrifying at points, because it is so realistic and direct about all the violence and crimes happening in this world, which honestly is how it really is in the real world. I think it's hard to read because you have to confront the dangers and horrors of this reality head on. There's no turning away from it. You have to directly deal with it and see it, and you can't just look away from it. And honestly, I would say this is an essential read, especially nowadays, showing how solitary mentality, which is, oh, what is happening to those people will never happen to me, so I don't have to do anything about it. I don't even have to prepare myself for what could happen. And also showcasing the strength in community and how much that can bring and better your life. So I will be giving this book 4.5 stars, if not 5. This actually is a duology, which I didn't know, and I will definitely be reading the second book as soon as I can. But since it is a bit of a harder read, like I said, and very, very unsettling, I will have to take a break from it and continue it some time away from now. And since this was a little bit of a gory and scary read, I thought I will follow it up with something easier to digest and a little bit happier, which will be The Neighbor Favor, which is a romance book. I have never really read anything like it, I think, and I'm very interested to see what this will bring. I don't really read normal romance books. Really, I kind of dive into the darker romance stories usually, because romance books have to have something really good going on for me to stay engaged throughout the whole book. So I'm hoping this will be that. So let's start. After coincidentally stumbling upon her new favorite novel while working at a bookstore, Lily Green decides that what she wants to actually do in life is to help bring more fantasy into the world, but doing it in the kids department. So she decides to go on a publishing journey and try to break into this publishing world. She is able to get a publishing assistant job, but it is in a department of nonfiction. One day, while commuting to work, she stumbles upon the website of her favorite authors. She decides to write him an email saying how grateful she is for his fantasy book and how much it changed her life and how it impacted her life. And from then on, they start a emailing relationship. In a way, it starts off as friendship, but we can clearly see it develops really quickly into something a little bit more. But when both of them decide to actually call in Skype maybe or FaceTime, the author that she only knows under a pen name ghosts her. She stops getting emails from him and she's unable to send any emails to him, and this is where their emailing relationship ends. And while she's grieving this would-be relationship, a very attractive person moves in a couple doors down from her new apartment. Nick, after abandoning his author career a couple of years back, was blessed with getting an agent and getting his book republished because he only wrote that one novel, Elves of Ceridon. When he wrote it and published it, the agency he published it with went bankrupt and basically ended, so his book didn't get anywhere. And this is his second chance, and now he has signed a deal on a couple of sequels. Unfortunately, he is stumped. He cannot think about anything that could happen. He never really assumed that he would ever have to write a continuation to this story, and he closed that chapter so long ago that he is struggling to come up with ideas and keep writing. By a coincidence, he starts talking to his very cute neighbor, and when she confesses to him that one of the books he recently read is one of his favorites too, they get to talking, and he realizes that it's the same girl that started emailing him a year ago and that he ghosted. I know he will definitely try to distance himself from her now and try and not be in her life because he probably feels really bad for ghosting her, because his reasons are not very reasonable for why he ghosted her, but they make sense in his head. Men just have weird ideas in their heads sometimes. So I love Lily. I think she's so charismatic and adorable. I also see a lot of similarities in myself to her. Obviously, her passion for books and reading and trying her best in this world as much as she can. It's very cute. So, yeah. Ugh, I love when the female main character in the book smells really nice, and when she smells of like cookies or vanilla, that's one of my favorite scents ever. And it's just like, I once read in a book that a character smelled like chocolate chip cookies, and ever since then I've been trying to replicate it on myself. So books have power over me. Honestly, this was such a cute read. I wanted a cute, chill romance that will just, put a little smile on my face, take my mind off of things, and this is exactly what this was. For a romance that is based on just like a normal life, these people have normal jobs and normal lives. They're not like rich billionaires, or they don't have dark pasts filled with gangsters and all of that. This was pretty gripping and very adorable. We got all the tension that was needed, and both our characters were done really well. I think they evolved within this book. We really got to see their characters flourish in whatever aspect they needed to. Lily got to fight for her own autonomy and just believe in herself. Nick got to overcome his fears of being recognized. I also really liked the addition of the emails. I've never really seen this done before, but this was basically 50 pages of just emails between our main characters, and we saw the relationship evolve through those emails. So we didn't have any other clues to atmosphere or the world or anything like that. I think it was so clever and it was done really well because we got to know our characters so much through that. It just also gave us a feel of who they were when they were strictly themselves. They weren't stopping themselves from saying things because the real world is different. Obviously, emails, you don't know the person, you don't really expect to see them anytime, and it just creates the atmosphere of complete truth. I'm giving this book 3.5 stars. This is a solid 7 out of 10. So yeah, I'm also almost finished with Finish the Fight, which is a collection of real stories following diverse characters who fought for the 19th Amendment, which is the right to vote for women. And although this was written, I think, in mind with younger readers, maybe like middle school, I am learning so much. I have never really covered this type of history in school, so it's really refreshing to see it and find out more about what has happened and how women fought, and also how women of color, more importantly, were treated by white women. I think every woman should read this book because it uncovers what has happened before and during the 19th Amendment and what women really had to go through. Puts it in an easy and digestible way. It's not very overwhelming, but you're still learning a lot. I recommend it, really. It's a very fast read because it's only 3 hours on audiobook, so basically nothing. My next read is actually going to be Black Cake. You probably know that I picked it up in my TBR Jar Picks My Reads video. This is, I think, a combination of literary fiction and historical fiction, and that's kind of all I know about it. I kind of just saw it on Goodreads one day and added it to my TBR, and then my jar picked it out for me. So I'm interested to see what this book will actually be about. I love when books have short chapters like this because not only is it super easy to get hooked on right from the beginning, but you are also hooked on every chapter. Like, every chapter is super short. You want to find out what's going to happen next as quickly as possible, and it's super easy that way because you're like, oh, I can just read the next chapter because it's so short. And then by the time you realize it, you've read like 20 chapters because they're all like 2 pages long. I usually only see this structure done within thriller books. I don't know why. After years of no contact, 2 estranged siblings are brought together by tragedy. Their mother dies and they have to come together to do the funeral, do the ceremony, and they also have to confront not only their family feud, but also a murder mystery that their mother leaves behind. Their mother decides to leave them an hours-long voice recording telling them a story of a murder that happened in the Caribbean islands. I think it's very riveting. I do have to say it took me about 50 or 60 pages to really get into it, but now that it's fully going and I know what is happening and I kind of know more about the characters, I'm fully immersed. I really love how we're flipping through the timelines. We have obviously the now timeline when we have both of the siblings and we are uncovering what has made them estranged, their bickering and their discussions, and obviously their reactions to the recording. And we also have the timeline of the story that the mother is telling, 1965, when it began, just being transported into that landscape. It's very interesting, very intriguing, and I can't wait to read more. In the story that their mother left them, we learn about the young woman named Covey and her passion for swimming and her passion for life in the Caribbean, but also her hopes to expand outside of the islands, her hopes to marry the boy she's in love with and move with him to the United Kingdom. And then we follow a tragedy that happens to her. I really liked that story and I really loved the flipping through timelines. I think I already said that. I feel fell in love with almost every character. Obviously, there is some characters that I was side-eyeing for the most of the book, like the brother. He was a little bit selfish. He didn't really think about other people except for him. But I think that's what makes this book so real. For reconnecting with each other, they have to focus on not just their own person, but what the other person is going through. We see their perspectives of the world and their characters, and their sibling relationships change so much. You never truly really know what is going on with another person. Alongside of that, which I really loved, was the exploration of racism, because we obviously had the outright racism, but also we had the quiet racism. The racism you don't even realize it's happening. It sneaks up on you. We can infer a lot of prejudices and injustices in between the lines. This book was a bit slower, and I think the reveals of everything are slow as well. And on one side, I really liked that because we got to explore the world and the characters so much, but also could have benefited from being just a tiny bit shorter. I don't know. Honestly, it made me fascinated by the islands, how they were described and how much love the characters had for them. It just blew me away. This book is first and foremost about tradition, heritage, and development of a person, that evolution that you have to go through and the growth that happens from when you're young and then you suddenly have to grow up and the world is a bit different than you were expecting. We got to see how each character views the world, how they form their opinions, how they form their pride and expectations, and how they treat another person and where that is coming from. Of course, I connected to Benny the most, the girl that spent years separated from her family, trying to figure out why she wasn't enough and figuring out life on her own. This is a story of life, the extraordinary and the ordinary, and it's just full of those small instances that make life. I will be giving this book 4.5 stars. I think it's such a great book and I would definitely pick it up if you're a fan of literary fiction or historical fiction. It has an exquisite writing and definitely worth the reveals. But this will be all for this video. I hope you guys got inspired and hopefully you enjoyed these books and maybe want to pick them up yourself. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Bye!